Before I confessed to John, I was actually prepared to be rejected. But at that time I really thought it was just an ordinary confession. There are only two possible outcomes. If it works, we become lovers. If it doesn't, we become strangers. But when the post on the campus forum that almost named and exposed the roommate by name, "My roommate is a pervert who likes men, it's so disgusting," became the #1 hot post. I know that my future life will never be ordinary again. At the same time, a dull pain came from my heart. I clenched the ballpoint pen in my hand. I know this is John's response to me, and also a lesson for me to learn from my own mistakes. Teach me a lesson of my self-righteous naivety. Liking men is perverted, disgusting, and a stain that is too dirty to even say out loud. I was the only one who naively thought that I just fell in love with a man. Nothing different. Oh, how could it be different? I returned to the dormitory with a pale face, facing all the strange looks along the way. The other 3 people in the dormitory were there, discussing something intensely. But when I pushed open the door and walked in, all the discussion stopped abruptly. 3 pairs of eyes looked at me at the same time. I raised my head and saw my quilt and pillow on the floor in the middle of the room. It's wet on top. It smells like alcohol has been poured. The dormitory head Mark looked at me with disgust, turned around, and put on a mask. Who knows if you perverts are carrying any germs? Disinfection is the least you can do to respect us. While cursing, he opened a form. Damn, sharing a dormitory with a pervert is so unlucky. Have you filled out the application form for changing dorms? Once I get to the new dorm, I'll have to buy some alcohol and disinfect it thoroughly. I paused as I pulled the stool away and looked up at them. Changing dormitories? Are they going to change dormitories? Just because I like men? My eyes darkened and I looked at the table next to me. John, do you agree? John was sitting on the table with his legs crossed, playing games with a blank expression. When I asked him, he paused for a moment, raised his head, and looked at me quietly. Then, under the gaze of the other 2, he sneered. What else? All my reluctance to give up was burned to ashes at this moment. I lowered my head and said, "Oh," turned around and started packing up. If you want me to leave, just say so. There's no need to do this. I just like men. I'm not really turning into a woman. Although they talked about changing dormitories, none of the 3 had any intention of packing up. Isn't this just to show me and force me to leave? It's so weird and roundabout. They are the ones who are not upright and hypocritical, right? As I was talking, I unconsciously put more effort into packing my things. The imitation Tang Sankai pottery horse that had been on my desk was knocked out of the box and fell to the ground. Bye. It broke into pieces. John's expression changed almost immediately, and he threw his phone onto the table. Fuck. James, do you want to die? It's hard for me to describe the feeling at this moment. I'm actually not a reckless person. If I hadn't felt the difference in John's attitude towards me, I would have felt a tiny bit of a signal. The scattered signals and blatant intimacy made me have ridiculous delusions. But in the end, I cruelly discovered that it was really just a delusion. You have to take good care of this horse for me. I got it in exchange for a girlfriend. If I ever bump into something, I'll hold you responsible. The day he gave me Tao Ma, John's words still echoed in my ears. I looked down at the broken pieces on the ground, and for some reason, I could still laugh. Isn't this better? It saves me from having to move. You? John looked at me suddenly, his eyes surprised. Are you really willing to move away? How? He actually thought I was just pretending like them? Or did he think I liked him so much that I was shameless? Didn't he find this very contradictory? Scales. My emotions were surging, and I even threw the cup that John gave me to the ground. The loud cracking sound gave me a sense of venting my anger. I picked up the utility knife on the table and sneered. You don't need to disinfect. I'll do it myself. I'll make sure it's cleaned thoroughly before you move out. The dormitory fell into deathly silence. The 3 of them stared at me as I destroyed, like a mad dog, all the items related to John and I over the past 2 years. Clothes, shoes, basketball. John's face turned livid, and he grabbed my wrist. Don't be crazy, James. Put aside your thoughts from now on. It's not like the dormitory can't accommodate you. Well, you don't have to move. Can't we just go back to being brothers as before? Intersection K. For a moment, I just thought it was ridiculous. Don't we have to move? So what's the matter with them disinfecting and changing dormitories? Oh, I see. This is a warning to me through practical actions. Force me to put aside my disgusting thoughts about John as soon as possible. Otherwise, the three of them will definitely not tolerate me. Should I thank you for being so tolerant of me and giving me a chance to make a new beginning? John frowned and said in a deep voice, James. I sneered, looked at John deeply, said nothing more, turned around and started packing. If you can't tolerate it, you can't tolerate it. What's the point of pretending to be a saint? Return to the way it was before? What? Good brother? Even if I can do it, can he pretend that none of this happened and that he doesn't know how I feel about him? Can you feel that liking men is not disgusting? I didn't have many things to begin with, so after smashing the ones John gave me, I only had one suitcase to pack. The rope was pulled, and I stood up and was about to leave, but my wrist was suddenly grabbed. John, who had been standing next to me with a stern face, finally couldn't help it and looked at me with a frown. You've thought it through. You're moving out of this bedroom today, and don't even think about coming back again. I looked at John expressionlessly and slowly pulled my wrist out. He said calmly, Well, I've made up my mind. I won't come back. Prejudice is like a thorn. Once it's etched into my heart, it's impossible to restore it to its original state. It was impossible for John and I to pretend that nothing had happened. But when he heard me say this, John seemed to be furious and nodded with an angry smile. Okay, James, you're awesome. This post on the campus network caused a stir. When I turned my head, I saw the instructor from the sports department next door looking at me with a normal expression. What a handsome young man. He is suitable to live with us. The instructor frowned, turned his head, and said in a low voice, This is James. The physical education instructor distanced himself from him and continued to look at me, his voice not lowering. I know who he is. Why are you speaking so quietly? Basie, do you know where the men's dormitory is? I paused, my eyes confused. Why does it sound familiar? After running around, I finally completed the dormitory change procedures and returned to the boys' dormitory. It was more than 3 hours later, a little after 7:30 in the evening. It was getting dark early, and people coming and going in the boys' dormitory were basically going to eat or coming back from eating. I really didn't expect that there would be someone waiting for me at the entrance of the building. This man was wearing jeans and flip-flops, and his handsome face had messy hair. He leaned against the wall and yawned lazily. Seeing me coming back, he walked over and took my suitcase naturally, speaking in a deep and magnetic voice. Robert, your new roommate. The counselor asked me to come down and pick you up. After saying that, the man turned around and walked into the building. I stood there a little dazed. I finally remembered why it sounded so familiar. It was because of the Robert in front of me, the first warrior in the academy who is tall, long-legged, and well-born, has charmed thousands of girls, but is now openly gay. Relying on his absolute intelligence, force, and financial resources, he directly discounted, subdued, dismissed, and drove away all the roommates who were prejudiced against him. So now, he is the only one living there. Lou, brother Lou. I shuddered and hurried after him. Do you mind if I move in? Robert glanced down at me without even stopping. You have an infectious disease? I paused. That's not the case, it's just that. I originally wanted to say that I like men. But think about it, who isn't? For a moment, there seemed to be nothing to be pretentious about. But Robert stopped for a moment before I continued, then lowered his head and weighed the suitcase in his hand. That's all you have? All you have. Where's the bedding? My expression froze slightly. Thinking of the bedding soaked in alcohol, I felt a little angry. Throw it away. Tisk. Robert frowned and was silent for a while. You're just throwing the blanket for fun? So what are you going to do tonight? Sleep in my bed? What a coincidence. I was so focused on talking to Robert that I didn't notice that the floor we were on was exactly the third floor where I originally lived. What was even more coincidental was that Robert said sleep in my bed at the same time. The door just opened. The faces of John and the other two appeared before his eyes. The three of them looked at me and Robert, especially John. His dark eyes were fixed on my face, his expression gloomy. The dormitory head Mark had obviously heard of Robert just like me. He didn't mock me for the first time, but just looked at me and Robert and sneered. Tisk, you're really good at finding roommates. A perfect match. Robert frowned immediately, his eyes sharp as he scanned Mark's face. There is no need to say anything. The feeling of oppression is enough. Mark's expression changed immediately. He turned his head away and tugged at John behind him. I'm starving. Let's go. I'm almost out of appetite if I stay any longer. My face turned pale. Robert looked normal. His expression didn't change at all. But he seemed to have a change of heart and helped me up and patted me on the back. What are you so surprised about? Hot post on campus. I'm not blind. I became even more stupid, forgetting the pain and looking at Robert blankly. Is this the God who single-handedly took down the boys' dormitory? How can you be so calm when talking about this? I thought James would move out of the school. I forgot about Robert. Outside the dormitory building. Without Robert's pressure, Mark finally dared to speak. His expression was full of contempt and sneer. Now that these two perverts are together, the whole building feels disgusting. John stopped suddenly and turned to look at Mark. What do you mean? What's going on with that guy? Mark was stunned, blinked blankly, and suddenly reacted after a while. Oh, you're a straight guy, so I guess you don't know. The guy who was with James just now is Robert from the sports department. He's 1 year older than us. He's quite handsome. As soon as he entered school, many girls chased after him. They were so fascinated. John's brows furrowed even tighter. Get to the point. That's the point. Don't be impatient, Mark said helplessly. The beauty from the chemistry department confessed to him in public that day. Guess what happened? This guy just said he likes guys. He came out publicly. John's eyes darkened. After his chest rose and fell a few times, his voice was a little light. He probably just found an excuse to refuse, right? Everyone thought so at first. But then someone saw him in a gay bar. Isn't this a sure sign that he likes men? Mark said, and suddenly moved closer to John with a strange look on his face, and lowered his voice. Didn't you just hear him say that he wanted James to sleep in his bed tonight? Robert, then he can live by himself. Now that they are both gay, who knows? Hey, Otson, why are you going back home? Aren't you going to have dinner? I fell really hard. My whole knee is swollen. I sat down on the empty bunk bed and grimaced in pain. At first Robert thought I was making a big deal out of nothing, that a grown man was whining like that, motherfucker. As a result, when I lifted my legs onto the bed, he saw the blood on my knees, his expression paused, and he reached out to scratch his forehead. Are you made of porcelain? Can it bleed if you bump into it? Is your sports department made of iron? I fell quite hard. The whole knee is swollen. I sat down on the empty bunk bed and grimaced in pain. At first Robert thought I was making a big deal out of nothing, that a grown man was whining like that, motherfucker. As a result, when I lifted my legs onto the bed, he saw the blood on my knees, his expression paused, and he reached out to scratch his forehead. Are you made of porcelain? Can it bleed if you bump against it? Me. Are you guys in the PE department made of iron? Don't you bleed when you get hit? I looked up and wanted to say something, but met Robert's deep gaze. Then I realized that he had been staring at my calves in a daze, and I didn't know what he was thinking about. Brother Lou? Robert came back to his senses at this point, still looking cold and lazy. He turned around and went back to his desk. I was just about to lower my head and sigh at his indifference and ruthlessness when a dark shadow loomed in front of me. Robert pulled a chair and sat down beside the bed, leaning forward. Move out of the bed. I'll apply medicine for you. It's a special medicine. It heals quickly, but it's a little painful. Just bear with it. I blinked, thinking how much pain it could possibly cause, but the next second, it hurts. No, I can't bear it any longer. This potion is too stimulating. Don't move. Spread your legs. I can't even aim. I was in so much pain that I kept dodging, and Robert couldn't apply the medicine properly. Fong simply held my legs and put them around his waist. If you can't stand it, just hook my waist. I didn't have time to react to how weird this conversation sounded. I clenched my fists in pain and pounded on the bed. It hurts, brother. Be gentler. You're pinching my thighs until they turn blue. The medicine irritated the wound, and I shivered in pain. But before he could say anything else, the door made a loud bang. It didn't sound like it was knocked by hand. It was more like a strong kick with the foot. Robert and I were both stunned and looked towards the door. The next second, John's cold voice sounded from outside the door. "James, either I count to 3 and you open the door for me, or I will break down this broken door today. 1, 2, sigh." As the 3 words fell, there was another loud noise at the door. It was a kick that was even more powerful than the previous one. With this kind of force, I guarantee that if he kicks the door twice more, it will break. Robert obviously also realized this. I put my legs down, stood up, walked over, and opened the door. Outside the door, John's eyes were red, and he looked like he was catching someone cheating, his foot already raised, ready to kick. When he saw the door open, he slowly put his foot down. His chest heaved violently, and he looked at Robert, as if he was relieved. "Junior, what's up?" Robert leaned lazily against the door, raised his eyebrows at John with his thin lips. John had already pushed past him and rushed into the house. After seeing the wound on my knee and the medicine on the stool, he obviously understood. For a moment, the look in John's eyes when he looked at me actually had a feeling of relief, as if he had survived a calamity and recovered what he had lost. But when I looked again, there was nothing there. John paused for 2 or 3 seconds. Then his expression returned to normal. He turned around and looked at Robert without losing any expression. "My former roommate is moving to a new dorm. Can I come and see him off?" "Okay, but..." Robert raised his eyes and glanced at the people who were peeking out of the door to watch the fun. He just raised his eyebrows, and everyone dispersed and disappeared in the blink of an eye. "Since it has come to the point of changing dormitories, I guess your relationship should not be that bad, right? Are you here for a serious visit?" John's face suddenly darkened. His fists clenched at his sides, veins popped out on the backs of his hands, and his chest rose and fell. After that, he suddenly sneered. "Is there any decent person in this dormitory? Are you afraid of indecent people?" "John," my voice also turned serious. "Why are you chasing me to my dorm to cause trouble? Are you sick? What? Don't you find it disgusting that these perverts like men like this? There are 2 gay men in this room. He is obviously disgusted, but still stays here. Is he sick?" John seemed to be surprised that I would speak to him in such a tone, and there was a hint of surprise in his eyes. Then, the corners of his lips curled up coldly. "What? Do you think I'm in the way?" "Ill." I'm too lazy to respond to his stupid remarks. He just tilted his head to look at the darkness outside and said without any context, "It's past 8 o'clock. Since John stopped dating, his life has returned to a stable and self-disciplined state. It's around 8 o'clock, usually the time when I study in the dormitory and he works out next to me. After half a year, I can no longer tell whether it is my habit or his habit. But both of them continued this habit." John naturally understood what I meant, and the corners of his lips curled up, but there was no smile in his eyes. "Kick me out?" I said indifferently. "It's not really a rush. It's just that I don't think we are in a relationship where we can sit peacefully in the same room." John sneered. "You're chasing me, James? Are you chasing me? Well, I'll drive you away." I simply nodded. John suddenly snorted, with a mocking smile. With a cold face, he pulled over an empty chair beside the table and sat down with a stern look. Then, he took out his cell phone and started playing games. I was shocked by his action. "John, you..." "Shut up." John glanced at me, lowered his eyes, and said awkwardly with a livid face, "You promised to make sure I passed the makeup exam." After hearing this, I was speechless. Yes, it is true. On the day of the final exam on Mao Zedong thought last semester, I had a high fever and fainted during the exam. John was so worried that he carried me to the hospital without saying a word and skipped the exam. As a result, we both failed all the Mao Zedong thought exams and had to wait for a makeup exam after we returned. At that time, John leaned against me like a boneless person, playing with a ballpoint pen and muttering to himself. I can't even count how many times James has done this. I lost a girlfriend in the forest because of you. I failed another exam because of you. You have to be responsible to me. I don't know how to talk about my girlfriend. but I feel really guilty about failing the exam. I tilted my head to look at John, who had already started drawing little people on the book, and I solemnly promised, "Okay, I'll take care of the Mao Zedong thought makeup exam, and I guarantee you'll pass, okay?" Deal. My little Sitsi has to be reliable. I still remember vividly the bright and handsome smile on John's face at that time. But when I came back after just one summer vacation, everything had changed. "Send the book to me tomorrow morning, and I'll mark the key points for you. Take it home and memorize it, and you'll pass it. You don't have to come to me for tutoring every day, so as not to disgust you. I think this arrangement is considerate." But John's face was gloomy. He opened his mouth and said, "I don't think you're disgusting. That post is not anything." But he didn't say anything more. During the freshman military training, there were leftover bedding. Robert helped me buy a bed from the dormitory manager, which easily solved the bed problem. But John stayed in our dormitory until the lights were turned off at 11:30. The lights went out, and the room fell into darkness, with only the soft moonlight shining through the window. "Spill in your mouth." Robert went to bed and watched the game leisurely, but he still didn't move. His leisurely and focused look even gave me the illusion that he was going to fight here until dawn. But I was wrong, because when Robert's soft breathing sounded as he fell into deep sleep, John finally put the phone down. He stood up from the chair, shook his neck, stretched, then turned around and left. The action of closing the door gently was so smooth that I was stunned. What is he doing? What I didn't know was that at the moment the door closed, Robert on the upper bunk also opened his eyes. His eyes were clear, and there was no trace of sleepiness. He turned over slowly, with the corners of his lips curled up. It feels really good to share a dormitory with a self-disciplined and hard-working athlete. When I opened my eyes the next morning, the first thing I saw was Robert's muscular back. There is also breakfast already bought on the table. I paused and was in a daze for several seconds before I realized that I was no longer there. My heart subconsciously felt empty, but then I felt a little relieved. I sat up from the lower bunk and stretched. "Brother, your attribute is not the same as below, right? You are so virtuous." Robert, who was changing his clothes, paused. He turned around and looked at me as if I were a reckless fool, with his eyebrows slightly raised. "James, you really think you'll be safe if you move here, right? If you want to experience my physical strength, just tell me." The playful smile on my face disappeared immediately, and I waved my hands repeatedly. "Brother Lou, you are wrong." Robert snorted, put on his clothes, put on his bag, and was about to step out, but suddenly stopped. He tilted his head to look me up and down, and the corner of his lips curled up. "You are really the right material." "Me? What kind of material? Don't think I can't give you a Leo kick just because my leg is injured." "James." Before leaving, Robert suddenly lowered his voice. He lowered his head and thought for a few seconds, and his attitude became serious. "Moving here is actually the beginning of your troubles. It's not terrible to be an outlier. What's terrible is to be an outlier that others pay attention to. Be prepared." I didn't understand what Robert said at first, but it doesn't matter, because that afternoon, I understood. In the half hour it took me to limp to class and back to the dormitory, I was pushed to the top of the campus hot posts again. This post is very concise, and there is nothing else to it, just my weird walking posture. Another meaningful title. I heard that this perverted confession guy has moved away, tisk. I'm a science and engineering guy, and I'm not good at liberal arts. This is the first time I know that words can be so powerful. A tisk, coupled with my walking posture. It was as if nothing was said, and it was as if everything was said. I was a little confused, and for a moment I didn't know whether to be angry or helpless. A towel suddenly covered my head, blocking my view of the phone. The dirty words in the comment section disappeared instantly. Then, my hands suddenly felt empty. I quickly pulled the towel off. Robert, who had just taken a shower and was still smelling of shower gel, threw my phone on the table. Those who can change themselves are gods. Plus, anyone who wants to change others is a psychopath. The best way to deal with a psychopath is to stay away from him, not to listen, not to look, not to feel sad for him, or even to reason with him. Plus, have you ever seen a psychopath who can speak rationally? Plus, when Robert said this, his expression was so calm that I felt like he wasn't practicing badminton. It's a philosophical psychology. Brother, should I say it or not? You really put this bee in place. My depressed mood miraculously disappeared, and I couldn't help but give Robert a thumbs up. In my eyes, this person has really grown taller. His personality charm has begun to glow golden. Robert's face suddenly darkened, and he picked up the medicine bottle on the table. He came over and slapped me. Spread your legs for me. Why does this conversation sound so weird? Brother, can you be a little gentler? It hurts. Bang. At this moment, the door was roughly pushed open again. I was stunned for a moment, and when I looked up, I saw John walking in with a sullen face. Sat at the table next to me. Then he threw the Mao Zedong thought book on my desk, set up the computer, and started typing. The posture was so natural that it was as if I was back in my own dormitory. I checked the time. It was 7:30 in the evening. On time. Tut, it's hard for him. It's done. Just take it back and carry it. The new semester has just started, and the makeup exam is scheduled for a month later. Maybe the school was afraid that we wouldn't pass, so they gave us plenty of time. I circled all the key points of the exam on Mao Zedong, thought one by one. I was afraid that John wouldn't be able to concentrate, so I diligently circled a few key points that he must understand. With this level, even if he only memorized one sentence a day, he could still pass the test in a month. It's really guaranteed. But John didn't answer. He just looked up at me. After a while, he lowered his eyes and whispered, I didn't sleep well. So, do I have to cover him to sleep? James, John looked at me, his Adam's apple rolling slightly. This is not right. What's wrong? I frowned. John didn't answer, but lowered his head to continue typing on the computer. The cursor on the open document flickered, and finally, 5 words fell. Nothing is right. I thought that after highlighting the key points, John would never come again. But every following night at 7:30, he would report to our dormitory on time. I feel like I can't understand them straight men anymore. John, you didn't read the campus post, did you? Brother Lou and I are now the most popular homosexuals. What a pervert. You come to our dormitory every day like this. Aren't you afraid of becoming the third pervert? John's fists clenched tighter. There was a rare look of struggle on his face. In fact, John didn't seem to be very relaxed even when he was there. His toes were always pointed outwards. This represents a resistance and a desire to escape. In fact, after being exposed and driven away, I just felt aggrieved and as if I had suffered a breakup. But I don't hate these 3 people, because it is human instinct to stay away from those who are different. I can especially understand straight men's homophobia. But what I can't understand is now. John is a homophobic straight man. Why does he want to get into the gay circle in a self-destructive way? I didn't get an answer. He didn't answer because of John. The only difference is that the time they came to our dormitory was changed from 7:30 when the flow of people was the largest to 8 o'clock when it was a little quieter. It's really helpless. It was as if John had taken Robert and I's schedule. He didn't come when we were alone. But as long as we are both in the dormitory at the same time, he will be there. Especially every evening, arriving on time at 7 o'clock. When I got there, I started playing games, using the computer, and doing homework. Stay until the lights are turned off. No, to be exact, stay until Robert goes to bed and leave on time. After more than a week, I even felt, Brother Lou, do you think John is addicted to watching you sleep? After taking a shower, I put on a pair of shorts and came out of the bathroom directly while drying my hair. But I never expected to run into Robert, who was lifting weights. The 8 strong abdominal muscles were so visible that they immediately caught my eye. Fuck. Brother Lou, you have such a great body. I chuckled twice, walked over, reached out, and quickly rubbed his muscles. Fully appreciate the touch of a large slab of chocolate. Just when he was about to try again, his wrist was suddenly grabbed. I was stunned for a moment, and when I looked up, I found that Robert's expression was a little tense. The Adam's apple rolled up and down. James, could you please be more self-aware? What self-consciousness? I was a little confused. You don't allow me to touch you? Robert's chest rose and fell several times. His cheeks twitched slightly, as if he was gritting his teeth. After a few seconds, he spoke in a low, hoarse voice. I'm aware that I'm gay. I was stunned for a few seconds, then smiled in a lewd way. Is this conscious or unconscious? You are gay. I am gay. We are a perfect match. Brother Lou, please marry me. As I said that, I moved closer to Robert. But his forehead was pushed hard, and he was pushed away directly. Go away. Are you clear-minded enough to come to me? Hey. I stood firm, not getting angry, and just looked up at Robert with a silly smile. Don't say it. Really don't say it. Once you peel off that cold and violent exterior, the real Robert becomes more and more charming the more you get along with him. Self-disciplined, virtuous, insightful, smart, and damn handsome. Sometimes when I look at his agile figure, I feel jealous of how this person has all the good looks. Anyone who misses such a good senior brother Lou would be blind. I will empty my mind now. I don't want anything else. I will just be with senior brother Lou, okay? Brother Lou, do you have a clean heart? I said this on purpose, and there is something else behind my words. Not long after I moved in, I got to know several classmates from the sports department through Robert. From them, I heard a piece of gossip about Robert. Robert, this perfect man, has someone in his heart. It's hidden so well that no one knows about it. Very innocent. I'm envious. I'm really envious. I clicked my tongue twice, grabbed the two ends of the towel around my neck, and turned around to put on my shirt. I suddenly caught a glimpse of a dark shadow out of the corner of my eye, and I was startled. I looked up quickly and saw John standing at the door. He stared at me intently, and there was a color in his eyes that I couldn't understand. Robert also saw him and found it funny. Junior brother, do you like our dormitories so much? If you really want to come, just submit your dormitory exchange application to the counselor. You are warmly welcome. John's face darkened, but he didn't say anything about changing dormitories and just stared at me and said, James moved back. This word sounds a bit unfamiliar to me. What does moving back mean? Is it me who has lost my memory, or is it him? It's only been less than 2 weeks since I moved out, right? Wasn't it him who said, don't even think about coming back once you move out? Maybe my eyes were too cold. John's expression softened a little. He spoke again for the first time. You should be able to see that the post is gone. I nodded, but that was just a nod. That post, along with the one about my weird walking posture, suddenly disappeared on the 3rd day after I changed dormitories. It was deleted completely, as if it had never been posted. But I know it very well in my heart. It cannot be deleted. The screenshot of that post may still be on a student's phone. My roommate lives alone. John was a little anxious. I didn't post that message. When you confessed your feelings, the head of the dormitory happened to hear it. Oh, I nodded. I could have guessed that, actually. John never liked being in the spotlight. As for posting this to attract attention, it's only been less than 2 weeks since I moved out, right? Didn't he say, don't even think about coming back if you move away? Maybe my eyes were too cold. John's expression softened a little. He spoke again for the first time. You should have seen that the post is long gone. James moved back. This word sounds a bit unfamiliar to me. What does moving back mean? Is it me who has lost my memory, or is it him? It's only been less than 2 weeks since I moved out. I'm being treated like an outcast. Accept strange looks and criticism. I don't force you to take sides. I accept staying or leaving. John has actually already made his choice. John, let's do this. You're a straight man, so don't get involved with a pervert like me. Don't come here again. I sighed and patted John's shoulder. Just as I was about to withdraw my hand, John grabbed my wrist with his backhand. He used quite a lot of force, and I couldn't get away. John looked at me with a look of resentment and helplessness. Do you think? I haven't tried it. Fuck, John gasped. I fucking thought I wanted you to disappear. But no, I can't do it. You're the only one missing from the dormitory, but I just feel like something is wrong. It feels so empty. Do you think I want to spend my time here every day? I don't want to be here either. But whenever I think about Robert being gay and the possibility of something happening between you and him, I get uneasy. John practically yelled the end of the sentence. After his chest heaved violently a few times, he slowly let me go. He reached out and wiped his face. James, I'm serious. Please come back. I'm with you. John spoke passionately, but I felt cold at the bottom of my heart. If it was 2 weeks ago, I would have rushed forward when I heard this. But in these 2 weeks, I have personally learned what people's words mean. Awesome. I also experienced what Robert said. It's not terrible to be an outlier. What's terrible is to be an outlier that is noticed by others. So, facing John's words, I now just feel naive. Okay. I nodded and smiled, walked over and hooked my arms around John's neck, and led him to the door. Let's go. John's eyes were filled with joy for the first time. But when he reached the door, he suddenly seemed to remember something and stopped abruptly. Heh. I saw his reaction and smiled coldly, and lowered the arm that was around John's neck. John, do you still want me to go back now? Do you still think we can be the same as before? You know very well in your heart that after that post was published, there is no going back. John's expression froze, and he looked at me with a panicked look. He clenched and unclenched his fists. In the end, he said nothing and just slammed the door and left. My eyes stayed on the place where his figure last disappeared. After staring for a long time, I just smiled bitterly. I knew it earlier. After that day, John never came again. I was also busy with classes, exams, and the final wave of preparation and transition before entering society from school. Although Robert is a year older than me, he was recruited as an athlete and is preparing to continue his graduate studies. Every day I go out for training, come back to read, and by the way, argue with me. Brother, you are planning to stay in school, but many people are about to graduate. Are you sure you want to stay alone and not take the initiative? I picked up a fish ball from the spicy hot pot, blew on it, and glanced at Robert opposite me. You know what? This guy is really patient. I have lived with him for more than 2 months, but I haven't noticed any signs that he has a crush on someone. It was hidden so tightly. Brother, I have to give you some advice on this. Love is not something you can just think about, you know? Even if the other person is straight and you don't plan to confess your feelings to him, you should at least go and get together with him, so as to avoid. Robert made a tisk sound and put a piece of fish into my bowl. His voice was very calm. He is not straight. He has someone he likes. Huh. This news was really shocking. I didn't hold the fishball firmly, and it fell back into the bowl. The spicy hot pot soup splashed. Robert was eating with his head down when the water splashed directly into his eyes. The chopsticks fell to the ground, and Robert covered his eyes and ran to the toilet. Oh ha 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 ha. Hot comments. More comments, ye. Hey. I was also startled, so I quickly grabbed some paper and followed him into the bathroom and covered his eyes with it randomly. Brother, I was wrong. I was really wrong. I really didn't mean it. If you hadn't. Before he could finish his words, the cell phone in Robert's pocket suddenly rang. His hands were wet, and he couldn't answer the phone, so I helped him answer the phone and turn on the speaker. His instructor's voice came from the other end of the phone. Yifun, you must play your best in tomorrow's game. Don't let me down. Do you hear me? Got it. Nagging. Robert wiped his eyes, his voice muffled. What's your attitude, kid? TSK, ungrateful. I specially sent your wife to your dormitory, and you haven't thanked me properly yet. Plus. The call was then disconnected. Robert looked at me with a panicked look on his face, holding the phone he had forcibly snatched away. I am stupid. I really didn't expect it at all. The person Robert has a pure crush on will be me. Because in my memory of my college years, there was no such person as him. Robert was also very depressed, sitting next to me with red eyes and curled his lower lip. I passed by the basketball court when you were a freshman. I was playing basketball on the court at the time. Your calves were so white that they blinded me. I was distracted and got knocked out of bounds. You, on the other hand, bared your teeth at me and said, "Fuck. Senior, you just took off. You almost pissed me off to death. Plus, but I never thought that you, a fool, would give me a bottle of water right after that. I was holding that bottle of water at the time, and I saw you looking so happy, following John like a spoiled little wife, and I was attracted to you right away." I never looked away again. As he said this, Robert scratched the back of his head and turned his head away. I then noticed that the tips of his ears were extremely red. Well, I have a basketball game tomorrow. Do you want to come and watch? I only lost that one game in college, and it was because of you. Now that the window paper has been broken, I have to get back at this place. I lowered my eyes in silence and said nothing. The phone on the table vibrated slightly. It's a WeChat message from John. What if I'm willing to give it a try? On the day of the basketball game, I still came. Sitting in the audience and watching Robert in his jersey running freely on the court, I was a little dazed. It's only been 2 months. It's complete nonsense to say that I like Robert. But I can't deny it either. Robert attracted me. Maybe it's the suspension bridge effect. This person gave me a hand when my sexual orientation was exposed, and I was at a loss and confused. It was bold and unrestrained, and it led me out of the haze with its clear and transparent voice. It seems normal to have a good impression of such an outstanding person around you. However, same-sex relationships not only have to deal with the usual conflicts of money and family, but also obstacles such as prejudice and perspective. How easy is it to really start? There was a person sitting in the empty seat next to me. I didn't notice him at first, but he kept tilting his head to look at me, and I couldn't ignore him. I turned my head and looked into John's bloodshot eyes. This guy really hadn't slept well for a long time. James, you win. John smiled bitterly. I can't do it. I accept it. I accept it whether I am laughed at or treated as an alien. As long as you come back, I can do anything. I stared at John's profile, and strangely enough, I felt calm inside. That's not necessary. Because I don't want you anymore. John, times have changed. Maybe fate has its timing. God may throw you a few times, but whether you can catch it depends on yourself. For me and John, from the moment that post was published and he chose to expel me, there was actually no going back. John's eyes suddenly turned red, and his voice began to tremble slightly. Why? What? Don't you like me? I'm just 2 months slower than you. How could I miss you? We have been together day and night for 2 years. Can you just let go of your feelings for me? I haven't let it go yet, I said calmly, leaning my arms back on the ground. But I will let it go sooner or later. Just leave it to time. But we don't have to do this. John got anxious and stepped forward and grabbed my hand. I was slow to react before, but it takes time for a straight guy like me to become gay, right? I can make an official announcement now and acknowledge you to everyone, as long as you come back. I've already come this far. What else do you want from me? James. Suddenly, a loud shout came from the basketball court, and everyone's eyes turned to me. And the next second, John let go of my hand. I smiled coldly, and John also reacted, with a flash of panic on his face. This guy really feels safe. More comments. Having said that, he wanted to come over and hold my hand. But I dodged it, looking across the crowd and meeting Robert's gaze as he won the game on the court. Robert smiled brightly, waved his hand, and shouted to me, James, I like you. Plus, you don't have to care what others think. Outside the school, they are all shit. Once you enter society, your colleagues are all shit. But the person who accompanies you day and night and sleeps in the same bed with you is oxygen. So, we are just living our own lives. Whether he is gay or not, it doesn't matter. Just ask yourself whether you want to be with me or not. After the shouting, the whole place fell silent. Under the watchful eyes of everyone, I covered my red face and laughed speechlessly.